So today what we're going to do is we're going to make a negative space mold from this. So I'm going to make a box and then basically subtract this shape out a couple of times. So let's do that. I'm going to draw a box, the shape and size that I want it to be, B-O-X, Command, Enter. And then I'm going to click and start to draw out. You will be using 5.5 by 5.5 inch blocks, but I'm going to be using a 6-inch block for mine. And you can always change it afterwards in the next program if you want to, but I'm going to just keep it consistent so it's easy for me. So I'm going to go 6, enter, 6, enter, 6, 6, enter. So that gives me a box, and I've got this on a different layer, so it's a different color, which is helpful for you to be able to visualize it. And then what we want to do is we actually want to create the negative space. So we're going to put this into that box and subtract it out. But you have to do that in kind of a funky way in order to make it work. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to move this into the box. So I want to find a spot, and on my model, I know I've got a corner edge that I can move that's flat and lined up on the bottom. Usually on the bottom somewhere you're going to have something flat. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to move this. So type move, enter, select the object, enter, and then click a base point. I'm going to use this midpoint on mine, but it will be dependent on your model which one you're going to use. And then I'm going to find my midpoint on the object. So I know it's overlapping. All right, now let's go ahead and move this the proper direction. So I'm going to move it this direction 3 inches. Wrong direction. Sorry. I'm going to move it this direction 3 inches. Okay. Yeah, I just don't want anything floating in space. So let's go ahead and Boolean difference to subtract that out. But first I want to make a second copy of this. So I'm going to go Command C, Command V, and that copies and pastes it back in place. Of course, if you have a PC, you'll have to use Control C, Control V. If I click on it, you can see there's two poly surfaces there on top of each other. I'm going to click on one of them and I'm going to hide it just using my light bulb, which is up here, or sometimes it's over here. Depending on what version you're using. Or you can type hide, enter. Okay, so now I'm going to Boolean difference out of this. So I'm going to type Boolean difference or click on the double spheres here and go Boolean difference. Click on the object I want to keep, enter. Click on the object I want to remove, enter. And that gives me my negative space. Now this, of course, is too big. So what I want to do is I want to split this and cut off half of it because we made it in the middle. So if I do a line here from this point here to that point there and extrude the curve all the way through, and then I'm going to scale it out a little bit just for the sake of making sure it overlaps. And personally, I'm going to move it over to a different layer. But don't worry about having to do that. I'm just doing that so that you can see it in red. Makes it a little clearer. So now I'm going to split this object, enter, with this object, enter. And then I'm going to click on this and delete it. And then we can see it's open on the back. I'm going to try to split this. So I just undid and went back to where I had the surface right here. If you need to go back and redo this surface, just make a line along this and extrude it the same way we did before. But I want to try to split this object, enter, with this object. Let's see if that worked. Okay, it did work. Okay, good. So now I should have the opportunity to erase the red face there, which is what I want. Because I do not want that red face. I just want it to be all one piece. I don't want two surfaces on top of each other. So now I can join this all back together. Or actually, let's see. What happens if I delete this? Yeah, that's fine on mine. Okay, so I don't need these surfaces. And the reason for that is because there shouldn't be any space there. That was just like a thin sheet of paper almost that was on the back of the object, and you don't need that. That's not going to help you for laser cutting or anything. So if you have any negative space, you do need to go in and actually delete these sections out. So that looks right to me, okay? So I can now join this back together. And now see how nice and clean it looks? That's what we're going for. We don't want those shapes overlapping, showing through like cookie cutters, okay? So I've got that. That's one side. All right, great. Next, I'm going to bring back by right-clicking on my light bulb. And I'm going to draw another box. This time I'm going to click here and drag out, and I'm going to go 6, enter, 6, enter, 6, enter. Oh, made it on the wrong side. But it's the right size box. I can even move that out of the way because that's our first negative space object. Now we're going to make the second one. So I'm going to move this. Let me move this one, actually. Move, enter. And we're going to repeat that first step we did. So I'm moving this back into place by having my midpoints. So you can see how it's giving me that red showing through on all sides. That means I know I've got the right size. Next, I want to move this object -3, so it moves the opposite way because we've already got this space. Next, we're going to make the other side. So again, I can copy this if I want to have another piece just like it. Command-C, Command-V, or Control-C, Control-V if you've got a PC. Now I've got 2. I'm going to move this one over here because this is going to be the example of the proper size one. And next, I'm going to Boolean difference this out. So Boolean difference. And if you had problems a minute ago understanding what I was doing with those back surfaces, I'm going to do it again right here so it'll make more sense. So Boolean difference. Click on the purple to keep, click on the red to get rid of, and then I've got my negative space over there. One thing to watch out for is to make sure that you don't have anything floating out in space. So if you've got like a little bit of geometry this way, then you're going to have to cut this up more. Using the same technique, you're going to have to actually draw cutting blades that go zig, zag, zig, zag, zig, zag, zig, zag, and that's going to and cut it into 4 different shapes. And I'm not going to show you how to do that, but you can ask me in class if you can't figure it out. It's the same principle. It's just you have to make 4 sides instead of 2. Mine, I only have to make 2. So that's all I'm going to do. All right, so let's now split this or cut it using a line extruded. So line, enter, click midpoint to midpoint. Click on this section here for curve, extrude curve all the way through. Click on the curve, increase the scale so that you make sure that it's going all the way through. Again, I'm going to change the color, so I'm going to move the object to this layer, and that's why it's turning red. All right. So next I'm going to split this object, enter, with this object, enter. And I'm just going to do the opposite again, just to cut down on the steps. So now I'm going to split this enter with this enter. Okay. Click on this and delete it. That's just the extra space we had. Okay, so now if I click on this and hit delete, I've got the red back, and you can see when I kind of move around that I've got the red space also on top of the purple space here. So I'm going to erase my red surface, enter. I'm going to erase my purple surface. And you can see in here everything is nice and clean, lined up, and I can join it together. So I'm going to delete this as well. Okay. And you can see that that was just a surface that was on the surface. It was like a sheet of paper there that we do not need. It doesn't have any thickness. We don't want that. So that's why we did that. Split instead of just capping it. Now I'm going to join these 2 pieces together, and if I did everything right, it should turn purple, which it did. So I joined it together, and fantastic. So now we've got this space and this object and this object, which are the 2 objects we're going to need to set up our laser cut file. Okay. And this is what it's going to look like when it's done. All right. And this is actually the one I made in a previous video where I saved all of the shapes on the sides in order to make my object work. And you can see that they're the same, including the back being open.